Did you know that you can do this for 30 bucks? What's going on, guys? Today we have even more wires. So this kit should include everything that I'm going to need to install some power locks on this 63 F100. So basically the kit comes with 4 actuators. Obviously we're only going to need 2 because we have 2 doors. But basically you have your brain here, which pretty much runs through a wiring harness to each of these actuators and just actuates this locking mechanism here, which is connected to your factory setup through these rods, which are provided in the kit. These are not vehicle specific, but you can pretty much set these up on absolutely any car in the entire world that came with locks. You also get 2 of these key fobs, and I actually think these things are pretty awesome. They have an LED light to show you that it's actually sending a signal. There's a blank key that flips out of the side. I don't know if I'll be able to use that for this application, but I'm definitely going to try. And the design of this thing, especially for the kit, costing under $30, yeah, it's pretty amazing. The link for this kit will be down in the description. Other than that, let's get started with this install. So the wiring schematic that we're going to be using is conveniently on the back of the box, and it looks pretty straightforward. Pretty much you just have to find a location that you're going to mount this. There's a wiring harness that simply just plugs straight into there, and then you run wire to each of the actuators, which it looks like they've included plenty of wire. So let's get this thing unraveled and see what we're working with. Okay, so you've got the plug that goes straight into the brain of this thing. You've got your connections already pre-installed on the end here. You've got inline fuses, fusible links, another inline fuse, and then there's like miles and miles and miles of this wire. So they give you plenty of wire to do this thing. All right, I'm just kind of getting everything laid out. I like to bench test it all before I install it in the car. That way I get a better understanding of how it all works. Basically, you've got a black wire here that runs out and it splits a few times. You've got to find a ground for this, and then this will then run to each of your actuators. Your red wire with the inline fuse obviously goes to your power, and then these wires here are a little bit confusing. So the diagram says connect with manual. Obviously that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm assuming it might be the switch that you would actually hit on the interior side of your door. But obviously this 1963 F100 does not have those. So I'm going to see if I can hook up some kind of 3-way switch and toggle it and see if that's what it is. But that's why I lay all of this stuff out, so I can get a better understanding of how all of this mess will actually work. Okay, so all I've done here is I hooked the red up to the terminal, and I've just got the black grounded. And we've got a functioning actuator. Not entirely sure what this wire is for. It's not written on the wiring schematic, so I'm assuming it might be an antenna, something like that. All right, so now that we have a better understanding of what we're gonna need to make this work, we just need to figure out how we're gonna get these mounted in the door and get them located in the proper position. That way lock is actually lock and unlock is actually unlock. So small little issue already. When I hit the unlock button, I need it to pull down, and it's wired the exact opposite of that. So when I'm hitting unlock, it's actually locking the doors. That's just the way that it was wired up from the factory or in the box or whatever, but there's an easy fix for it. Pretty much these were made to just color match. So white would go with white, blue would go with blue, green would go with green, and so on. However, it's obviously just the opposite of what I want. So I had to figure out which one was the unlock and which one was the lock, just switch them. And on this one, there are 2 signals because this is the master actuator. So this one will get unlocked first, and then on the second unlock, the other actuator will get unlocked. So you have to switch both of them around. I think it was blue and green, and then white and brown. You swap those, and obviously you see now that they are not color matched like they're supposed to be. But that makes this actually pull down whenever I hit the unlock button. So that was a super easy fix. All right, now I just have to figure out how to mount this inside the door. As you can see, the factory linkage is right there, just kind of dangling down. I'm gonna mount this up against the side here. You're gonna want these actuators as straight as you possibly can. That way it doesn't place any unnecessary stress on the motors. So I'm just gonna figure out about where I need to mount this and then go ahead and throw it in there. All right, so as you can see, I've got my 2 holes drilled right here. That's where the actuator is gonna mount. We're gonna go ahead and get that mounted up. Okay, there's just 2 mounting points on this actuator. Go ahead and install the rod through there. It's just, you run the rod through and there's a flared part on the end that just catches. Go ahead and install that before you throw it in there. That way you don't have to take it back out so you can get it in after it's all done. So we're gonna go ahead and throw this in there and see what everything looks like and what we're gonna have to do to make this rod right here work with the factory lock mechanism. All right, guys, I've got that mounted up in there. As you can tell now, this rod is going to be fairly straight up and down because it goes right in the end of that. So we're going to cut this to size and also make a bend on it. I've marked right where the bend is going to have to be. I don't know if you can see that right there. So the bend I'm going to need to make is right there. So I'm going to come up here just a little bit and cut that part off. Ow, that hurt. All right, so I went over and I made that bend in the vice grip. So we're gonna go put this back in there and see if we can get it to work with the original lock mechanism. This might be hard to see, but as you can see, I've got the linkage in there. And as I manually move that motor, it is actually moving this switch over here. And as I lock the door, again, this is all mechanical, but still you can see that the motor here and the linkage on the factory locking mechanism are working together. The final mounting point for this part right here, this is your brain again. I'm just going to do it on the side of the glove box, and then if the signal is not strong enough, I can always run a longer antenna. If that's even what this is, we'll find out later. Temporarily, just for testing purposes, I have the wires just running straight out through here. Once I know that everything's going to work, I'm going to try to run them straight through here and then into there with a rubber boot like you would get on a newer car from the factory. All right, the next part is just to establish a constant source of power for this. Obviously, it's got to be power even when the car is not running. That way you can get into your car when the car is not running. Okay, if you watch the other videos, you know that this is probably not a factory wiring harness for this F100 truck. It's because it's not. I had to go and get a Speedway Motors wiring harness kit because all the wiring was completely gone out of this thing. So there might even be a spot on here, I haven't checked yet, but there might be a spot for a power lock already on here. But again, if you can't find that, then you want to just make sure that it's constant power even when the car is not running. All right, so as you can see from this completely mangled up, the instructions I got with the 22 circuit wiring kit from Speedway Motors. Again, I'll put the link for this kit as well in the description box below. But down here, as you can see, there is a wire for power locks. So the reason I love this kit is because you just have to find the wire in the wiring harness that says power locks and then just run it to the 12 volt positive on the brain of this whole system, and then it should power it right up always, even when the truck's off. Get the gauge cluster cover off, and now I just gotta go through, oh man, all of these wires and find out which one says power locks. So yeah, wish me luck. Finally found it. It was in this part of the harness. I've got the other half right here. So I'm gonna have to run the wire to the second terminal right there. So I'll get that done, hook this up, and then we should have power to our power locks. All right, we just gotta hook the harness into the brain here. There we go. Find a ground. I've got the whole centerpiece of this whole thing mounted in there. And if you close this, got a wire loom going up through here, and I've gotten to about right here. The rest of this, I'm just gonna do a time lapse. That way we can real quickly just kind of run through this, and I'll show you guys the finished product. All right, so I've got it mocked up in the door. All right, we're gonna go ahead and try to test this. Right now we're unlocked. Let's go ahead and hit that lock button. Okay. Sweet. Let's go check the other side. Lock. Unlock. All right, I see a lot of questions about the range on these, and I really don't know as of yet, but remember, it's mounted in the cab, in the glove box, so there's lots of metal around it, and it works pretty good every single time. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today's video. That's how you install universal lock actuators on any car. I mean, it may not work exactly like this, but you just have to figure out a way to get that actuator to work with your factory linkages. You just have to be able to get everything out of the door and have a clear enough view of where you're going to make the linkages work and everything like that. So, and for those of you who say, well, why would you need remote locks on a 63 F100? And my wife plans to go on these journeys with me like anytime that I get in this truck. So maybe it's raining and maybe, you know, her door's not unlocking because I just have your normal factory key. So then I've got to unlock my door, then lean over and then unlock hers. But I don't think she would be too happy. I might be speaking from experience here. Again, $30, $30. All the part numbers that's in this video, they will be listed below in the description, and I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you guys can see all the new updates that's going to be happening with every build, but I'll see you guys later.